Video game remakes. Some people love them, some people hate them and think they're not creative, but what are the best video game remakes of all time? And where do games like Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth and the Resident Evil remakes fall on a list of the greatest remakes of all time? Well, according to IGN, they figured it out. So let's talk about it. Alright, so as I mentioned in the intro, this list of the top 15 best video game remakes comes to us from IGN, which has been known to put out some questionable content in lists over the years. Some people find them very polarizing, but hey, maybe they put together a good one this time, okay? So maybe they're cooking, but I'm really curious to see what's on this list. My main focus, obviously, will be FF7 and Resident Evil, but who knows what else might pop up on this list. So let's get it started. If you see one, I can't hear shit. I had to switch my audio. Now I can hear things just fine. Let's do it.
Not hesitate. It's coming. It's coming.
RE2 Remake
Over
is so
the
good.
past decade, video game remakes have become more and more prevalent.
Oh yeah.
Most years see at least one major remake attempt
Half-Life.
to rekindle the
Okay.
nostalgia of old fans and show new players the achievements of days gone by. And while there's an argument to be had about games
RE4.
being stuck in the
So
past,
good.
we can't deny what a thrill it is to see our favorites of yesteryear given a modern makeover. Remember when Final Fantasy VII's Cloud was 6 purple polygons and a yellow spike? Well, he's a supermodel these days.
Oh,
The
yeah.
spikes are still there, thankfully. But what are the qualities of a good remake? That's an increasingly difficult question. Once upon a time, it was enough for a remake to simply update something with modern graphics. But as the game industry has evolved, so have tastes and gameplay systems, and thus remakes
Metal
have
Gear.
changed too. Now a remake can offer a truly new experience to
Yeah.
both long-term and new fans with fresh new takes on decades-old ideas. The very best remakes are carefully observed balancing
Silent Hill
acts
2.
that find the sweet
So good.
spot between faithful recreation and exciting new ideas. In some cases, that's the game exactly as you thought you remembered it, now unshackled from old hardware limitations.
Yeah.
In others, it's radical recreations that provide an alternate vision of the original's core idea. With all that in mind, let's explore the very best video game remakes. These are the 15 strongest examples
15.
of remakes, judged not by their overall quality as
It's a lot of Final Fantasy.
but by how each project achieved its new upgraded ambitions and brought new perspectives to old classics.
All right, so it says written by IGN staff, but I do want to go back and see if there was I think there was a line I missed at the beginning, a byline. Narrated by Ryan McCaffrey. I've heard of him. Edited by Timothy. So this is an IGN collaborative effort. I may have just spoiled something there. But I do give them major props for defining like how nebulous a remake can actually be, because that's such a confusing term for some people. Much like they said, some people assume a remake is a one-to-one thing. It's got to be just like the original, but look and sound better, play better. But it can also be, you know, a bit of a project that takes liberties. And it's sort of what you remember, but it's also adding new things in. So I'll give props already to IGN. That's a really great intro breaking that down.
Pokemon Gold and Silver,
It's the
though
Pokemans.
only the second in the long-running Pokemon series, are the only entries that allowed you to travel across 2 different regions and collect 16 badges instead of the standard 8. That meant 2 endgame challenges to conquer, 2 sets of legendary Pokemon to collect, 16 different gym leaders to defeat, and more.
So just very briefly, for the games that I'm not too familiar with, I probably won't have much input, especially if I haven't played them. Again, my focus is Final Fantasy and Resident Evil, which we saw a lot of so far. But as for Pokemon, like every kid growing up, I was caught up in the Pokemon whirlwind. Eventually, I did find myself growing out of it just because I wasn't as interested. And Pokemon nowadays is just insane. It's still super popular, but there are so many different types of Pokemans out there. So it's kind of hard to keep up with it. But I know people love these games like crazy.
Following the mammoth success of Breath of the Wild,
This is gonna sound like sacrilege to some people. I never really got into The Legend of Zelda. I tried. Believe me, when I was younger, I attempted to play Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, but for whatever reason, they just never really clicked with me as a kid. I was really into Final Fantasy, and I just, for some reason, could not get into The Legend of Zelda. Maybe if I get a Switch 2, it'd be something I'd try again with Breath of the Wild, or what was the other one, Tears of the Kingdom. I wouldn't mind trying them.
plenty of wonderful games are deserving of remakes, but none
Live Alive?
perhaps
Is that what it
needed
is?
one as much as Live Alive, the 1994 Square Enix RPG that preceded Chrono Trigger and laid the groundwork for not only that game, but numerous beloved
I never knew it
classics
was a
that
remake.
followed.
Wow.
The philosophy behind many remakes is
Delta.
unlocking ambitions that were once hindered by technological limitations.
So very briefly, I played the crap out of OG Metal Gear Solid 3 Subsistence. And when I say I played the crap, I think my longest play session of that game was about 8 hours. I couldn't sleep one night. I was a teenager. It was like 2 in the morning. I went to bed at like 12. I woke up at like 2. I couldn't go back to sleep. I'm like, I'm going to play Metal Gear. And I played until about like 10:30 in the morning. And then every night I would play the online mode to go against people. So I played the crap out of that. Unfortunately, I haven't gotten around to Delta yet. And that's primarily because right now, in the span of time that we are in, there's like a huge barrage of games coming out. There was Metal Gear Delta, Silent Hill F is like a week away, Final Fantasy Tactics, and then Ghost of Yotei. So unfortunately for me, Delta is on the back burner. I probably won't get to it until next year, but I am excited to play it, and from what I hear, it's super faithful.
Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater makes the interesting decision to embrace those limitations.
Also, the theme song to this game, Snake Eater, I believe is performed by Cynthia Harrell. It's the best James Bond theme song to never be a James Bond theme song. It is so good. I listen to it a lot. Incredible vocals. It's just one of my favorite video game, I think, theme songs ever.
Its sprawling Soviet jungle remains divided by load screens, the scope of its play space is defined by the limits of the original PlayStation 2 hardware.
Yeah.
You'll see the term faithful remake used a lot through this list, but none are as faithful
That's basically
as
what this is.
MGS
Super
Delta.
faithful.
This is a PS2 game in PS5 clothing.
Yep.
But what a PS2 game it is.
Oh, yeah.
Arguably the pinnacle of Hideo Kojima's career, what was once a groundbreaking stealth game is now an enduring classic thanks to its playful approach to Cold War espionage and its dramatic cinematic story.
I think 3 and 2
Snake Eater has been iterated upon many
are probably
times
my favorite
across the
Metal
years,
Gears.
and MGS Delta collects together years
4 is
of
really good too.
improvements
4 is
and
really good.
enhances them all with incredibly glossy modern graphics and an updated control system that finally turns Snake into the nimble operator he was always
Nice.
meant to be. This may not be a revolutionary remake, but it does a solid job of preserving perfection for a brand new generation.
And much like at the top of the video, like, remake is such a nebulous term these days for a good reason, where it can be super faithful like a Delta, or it can take liberties like the Resident Evil remakes and reimagine things. So I like that the term remake isn't just one thing. It has, some wiggle room by its definition. Good list so far.
There are a number of remakes.
Black Mesa. Can I also confess? I never got into Half-Life. I tried as a kid. I just couldn't get into it. I wasn't a big first-person shooter person until Halo came out and it just changed first-person shooter games on Xbox. And that was like my introduction to FPSs. Although Disruptor on PlayStation was awesome. 10.
It may literally
7 freaking Remake is number 10? Okay. I would have placed it higher, but it's in the top 10. I'm curious to hear what they say. For me personally, I love FF7 Remake. I love Rebirth. I think Rebirth is the better game. But listen to what I'm about to say, because it might sound crazy. There will never ever be another game like Final Fantasy VII Remake. Even though I think Rebirth is better, there's something about Remake, the lead up to it, the anticipation, the hype that everyone felt leading up to that game's release was like no other. And then getting to play it, It's the perfect definition. It's the in-between of the remake definition where it's super faithful to the original game, but they start adding in little things here and there that make you question, hold on, this isn't just a straight up remake. They're adding new stuff. They're taking liberties, and it's balanced so well in Remake. On top of that, it introduced us to the combat, which is like my favorite combat system in all the video games. It scratches both sides of, my left and right brain that wants the turn-based, but also wants the real-time action, which also, wants to be able to pause when I need to and pick my commands. The music is phenomenal. The composers have the unenviable task of taking some of Uematsu's classics and bringing them back into modern day and rearranging them, remixing them. We just covered an article recently with Uematsu where he was talking about, game music these days. And I really feel like the composers who work on this franchise truly understand how amazing the original tracks are. And they still keep the essence of those tracks in the newer versions of them, but they do take some liberties and they sound amazing. But I will never forget the experience that I had with this game. I remember the night it came out, I took my dog outside early, around like 10. We came in at 10:30, and I sat there on my couch waiting for 7 Remake to unlock. And she was right there by my side. She was there with me for Rebirth. Unfortunately, she's passed away, so she won't be there with me when Part 3 comes out, but in spirit she will be. But everything about this game, I think, is just screams like the epitome of what you want a remake to be. So I'm curious, now that I'm done, what does IGN think?
Be in the title, but Final Fantasy VII Remake is more than just a remake.
Oh yeah.
It's also a reimagining of the 1997 JRPG classic, a reinterpretation of its achievements, and somehow also a sequel to the game it recreates.
Yeah.
Oh.
Some people think it's not a sequel, and technically it might not be. We learned a lot in Rebirth about the live stream and how there's all these different worlds within the live stream. This world that we're in here with the Remake and Rebirth, the Remake trilogy, very well could just be another world within the live stream, and the OG FF7 was a different world. So we'll have to find out more in Part 3.
And it also only covers around the first 30% of the original story, which has been transformed from a brief journey through the city of Midgar into a massive 30-plus hour adventure.
And you have to. I know there's so many people out there that are mad that it's 3 parts. They're milking the franchise. It could have been 1 game. I'll repeat myself, and I'm sorry for sounding like a broken record in a lot of my videos, but had they made Remake as 1 game, we wouldn't even be playing it yet. It would be a PlayStation 6 game. Or they would have rushed it out and there would have been so many things missing from like side quests and materia, battles, story stuff. And the plus side of this being a trilogy is they can put a game out and they can hear feedback from fans and they can then integrate that into the next game. And they did that from Remake to Rebirth swimmingly.
This approach certainly isn't for everyone, but you can't deny the ambition of this lavish
Super
project.
ambitious. They know they can't mess it up.
This first chapter of the 3-part Final Fantasy VII Remake is a stunningly gorgeous RPG that gives new life to some of gaming's most memorable characters and settings. With all that extra time, it successfully expands upon the story and weaves in new plot threads, such as robust backstories for members of the Avalanche team, more believable relationships between protagonist Cloud and his new buddies, and a better sense of life in the Sector 7 slums. On top of all that, it also completely revamps the combat system.
It's so good.
Creating a brand new, action-heavy, real-time system that feels both exhilaratingly new and highly evocative of the original game's turn-based battles. FF7 Remake's approach is exemplary and makes many other games on this list feel more like remasters than remakes.
Okay, IGN. You are currying my favor here. I agree with what IGN said. There can be a lot of toxicity surrounding the Remake trilogy and FF7, but it's important to remember that it's on the internet. Not everything on the internet is real. It tends to be more heightened with the negativity. And I can understand why people wouldn't like the Remake trilogy. I totally get that. But they're just echoing how I feel about the Remake trilogy, being able to take what I remember as a kid and the way I envisioned it in my head and recreate it in the remake. take all the story and character stuff, but now expand upon it and flesh it out because you have time. I love 7 Remake so much. Where's Rebirth?
Shadow of
Shadow
the Colossus
Colossus
was a landmark achievement when it hit the PS2 in 2005.
So I do own this game. I never finished it. I was not very good at it, but I do acknowledge just how incredible the original game is, but also the remake.
After reaching the heights of Dark Souls 3 and Bloodborne,
Demon's
it was
Souls,
hard
yeah.
not to see 2009's Demon's Souls as the aging, hollowed precursor to From Software's mighty success story.
If you've kept up with my Onimusha videos, which 5 of you who watch this channel do, you will know that I used to love the Souls games. I played the crap out of Dark Souls 1 about a year after it came out. I stayed away from it because I heard how challenging and scary and brutal it was, but then I had a friend bring it over. He introduced the game to me, and that night after he went home, I went online and bought a copy. I bought a copy, and I was enamored with it. It was a game that just hit me when I needed it, so I became a huge Souls fan, but eventually I played so much that I got burned out and haven't really gotten back into them. But Demon's Souls, probably still one of the best looking PlayStation 5 games that truly looks next gen. It's astonishing. It's a good list so far, IGN. I'm not angry yet.
The original Metroid was a ground...
Can I be honest with you guys? I never got into Metroid either. You can take my gamer card away if you really want. I just never got into it. It never interested me. I also didn't have a Nintendo. My sister did, but I think my mom sold it before I was born. So technically I didn't get on board until the Super Nintendo. So I didn't experience the original Metroid. So I'm not as interested in Metroid. I know it's great. I have nothing against it. I just couldn't get into it. But so, oh, what's happening? It's fast forwarding. Oh, that's a shame. Number 6.
Capcom
Resident Evil 4.
has become somewhat
I love it.
synonymous with the idea of remakes.
I think he's probably going to say it. Capcom, I think, birthed the video game remake, specifically with Resident Evil Remake, which hasn't shown up yet. And that is considered by many to be the remake. And we'll talk more about it if it shows up.
Having now rebuilt no less than 4 of its Resident Evil games. Among them is the legendary Resident Evil 4, Leon S. Kennedy's action-packed descent into the Las Plagas infected Spanish countryside. Of all the games Capcom has
so
reinvented, Resi 4 was the one least in need of a refresh,
Yep.
but despite that, the RE4 remake is an astonishing feat that helps elevate an all-time classic.
Yeah, so many people were like, why do 4? 4 still holds up to this day. It's still really great to play. But when you see what Capcom has done with the gameplay aspects and incorporating more action, it just kind of made sense for them to go back to RE4. I'm still hoping Code Veronica gets a remake. I think out of all the mainline Resident Evils, Code Veronica, I guess, isn't mainline, but it's the most deserving Resident Evil. In terms of a remake, it needs one desperately.
Purist fans may have been annoyed by the erasure of the original's more eccentric ideas, but they have been replaced by an altogether darker, more horrifying tone that syncs Resident Evil 4
I like it.
with Capcom's other recent remakes.
Oh, yeah.
It also benefits from snappier, more energetic combat, complete with an excellent knife parry that makes fighting
That
both
fight
the
is so cool.
Armadura enemies and the Krauser boss
take your
battle
knife and-
much more intense. Perhaps most importantly, it vastly improves Ashley,
Yeah.
both in terms of her depiction and the mechanics around
Leon.
protecting her, eliminating any sense that Resident Evil 4 is an annoying multi-hour escort quest. Combine all that with an incredibly handsome graphical makeover, and you've made a masterpiece feel even more essential.
And that's the cool thing. RE4 Remake and OG RE4 are pretty different when you really think about it. They stand side by side. I don't feel like Remake replaces the original, and I don't think original kind of overshadows Remake. They both stand together really well and are both really, really good.
Last lesson starts.
2 of the best games ever made.
Fans of the Persona
Persona
series are no strangers to new versions of the beloved Atlas RPG.
Can I also be honest? You guys get the point. I very briefly flirted with Persona with 5 Royal, but I didn't own the game. I was game sharing with someone, and we don't game share anymore, so I didn't get a chance to finish it. I liked what I played, but I didn't get that far into it. But I love the music. Persona 5, incredible soundtrack. But as a series, it doesn't really grab my attention. So no disrespect to the Persona fans. We're just going to skip ahead very briefly. In the interest of time, no one wants to sit here for an hour and watch me react to this. Let's be honest here. But I know that Persona has a lot of fans. People love it. Silent Hill 2. I didn't grow up playing Silent Hill. I was a Resident Evil kid. That was more my speed. But as I got older, I knew that people loved Silent Hill 2. Many people consider it a masterpiece, one of the best survival horror psychological games out there. So when Remake came out, I'm like, you know what? I'm hearing good things about it. I've always had interest in Silent Hill. Maybe now's the time to actually play it. And it blew my mind. One of my favorite games I played in 2024. If Final Fantasy VII Rebirth hadn't come out, Silent Hill 2 Remake would have been my game of the year. It is that good. If you have not played it, I highly, highly recommend it. Silent Hill F is just right around the corner, but this game is astonishing. The writing, the performances, the gameplay, the exploration, the puzzles, the way this game makes you feel and think. It hit me so hard, specifically the in-water ending, which is what I got on my first playthrough. But this game just like hit me in my soul, and it never left. I still think about this game to this day.
Team Silent's original Silent Hill 2
so
is
good.
rightfully considered one of the most affecting survival horror games of all time, and Bloober Team's 2024 remake does nothing to diminish that. While the PS2 original has an incomparable, unsettling atmosphere thanks to its technological limitations, the remake uses modern graphical and sound techniques to generate a complementary, oppressive tone. As you explore the strange, abandoned town of Silent Hill, you can't help but let the dread creep in. Bloober's creation is incredibly faithful to the original game, following the same plot beats and exploring the same environments, but its new over-the-shoulder camera both pulls you deeper into its terrifying world and makes combating the town's grotesque inhabitants more intuitive.
The audio design in particular is so good that I walked into a room, I heard somebody whisper in my right ear. I turned around and left the room. It's that good.
Those combat enhancements can really be felt in the boss battles,
combat is satisfying
which are now reinvented as terrifying engagements rather than repeating the attritional slogs they once were. But really, it's the modern presentation of this bleak story that really makes Silent Hill 2 a vital remake. Actor Luke Roberts breathes fresh new life into protagonist James Sunderland, providing a deeply troubled, nuanced performance that anchors this tale in inescapable grief and guilt.
Yeah, that game hit me hard. As like full transparency, I've said this on my channel, I'm someone who struggles with my mental health. So to play a game that, you know, kind of highlights that and talks about a lot of the things you would go through when experiencing like anxiety or depression hit me super hard. And there's so much depth to the characters and to the story. You could make an entire video on one character and one aspect of their story. It's that deep. And even though it depressed me, it stuck with me in a good way. Like I liked it. There are some games that bum me out to where I don't want to play them again. Last of Us Part 2, I'll explain later in the year, Clear Obscure. But this game, for whatever reason, like it stuck with me and I enjoyed it.
When it comes to faithful remakes that largely stick to the...
I will be honest. I'm a little shocked this is number 3 and not number 1. And I say that because when a lot of people talk about remake, which is how they refer to Resident Evil, RE fans, we just call it remake. A lot of us would consider this the best Resident Evil remake, potentially one of the best Resident Evils, period. And like I mentioned earlier in the video, I feel this game is responsible for kind of creating that remake, reimagining, reboot craze that people have with gaming. And this, to me, and for a lot of people, I think, is the epitome of what a remake should be. It still sticks to what you remember the original game being in terms of story, gameplay, but it also freshens up a lot. It takes liberties here and there with the characters, with the story, which it needs to. They have to add new twists and turns to kind of make you as the player guess, like, hang on, I'm expecting one thing with these characters, but what if they, turn it on its head and it becomes something completely different? This to me is like, again, this is what you think of when you think of a remake. It's super faithful. They take liberties where they need to. It's super spooky and scary. It plays well. And all of the new stuff they add in, I think just works really, really well with what was already, established in the OG game. So I'm a little shocked. It's number 3. 2 games we have not seen so far. Rebirth, which they highlighted a lot in the intro, and Resident Evil 2 Remake. So with one of those, I'm happy with those 2 games being 1 and 2 and Remake being 3. Although I think I probably would have placed this in the number 1 spot. Well, let's continue.
The core design established in the original and focus instead on bringing everything else up to modern standards. There aren't many games better than the original Resident Evil remake.
Yep.
The R-Remake adheres to everything that was intrinsic to the original. From the pre-rendered backgrounds, to the tank controls, to the limited inventory that forces you to make tough decisions on what to keep and what to toss. All these may be incredibly familiar for those who were there back in 1996,
Yep, I was.
But they're polished up to beautiful new standards. It may have old ideas, but it plays fantastically, which is impressive, considering this remake is already much older than the original game when it was made.
What's even crazier is that this remake, it wasn't that long after the first original Resident Evil had released. I think it may have been like 6 years. It felt longer, but for them to turn around so quickly and get a remake, it was nuts.
But Resident Evil isn't just a shinier version of its source material. It also adds several entirely new features that change up the experience and give it its own identity. Whether it's the terrifying addition of dead enemies resurrecting as powerful Crimson Heads, unless you have the foresight and resources to burn the corpses, or the brand new plot thread involving the horrifying Lisa Trevor,
who may be
Resident
back in
Evil's remake
Recninium.
shines because not only is it a faithful remake that brings the PS1 classic into a modern light, but also because of the ways that it separates itself from that classic to become something even better.
Okay, so number 2 is either Rebirth or Resident Evil 2, because both of those games were featured in the intro and we ain't seen them yet. If I had to guess, Final Fantasy VII is always the bridesmaid, never the bride. It's number 2. Rebirth is probably number 2. I was right. So I'm guessing RE2 Remake is number 1.
After having successfully pulled off a radical reimagining with the first game in the trilogy, Square Enix faced a more daunting challenge with the second chapter of its Final Fantasy VII Remake project.
Remake was one thing because it's super linear, it's focused in Midgar. It's not too big of an undertaking, it's still a big undertaking, but now you've reached Rebirth. We've left Midgar, we're expecting open world-esque stuff, chocobos, huge monsters, some of the bigger story stuff. They knock it out of the park, my dude. Rebirth is one of the best games I've ever played in my life, and I think Part 3 is probably going to top it somehow.
It needed to recreate the most expansive section of the original game, redesign a huge variety of locations, including a whole theme park, add a number of new characters, and restage one of the most important emotional beats in RPG history. As with its predecessor, not all of these ambitions are met equally. But FF7 Rebirth is nonetheless an incredible, transformative achievement. The most immediately impressive factor of Rebirth is its scope. While it doesn't totally leave Remake's linear structure behind, much of Rebirth takes place in sizable open hub worlds. While there is a touch of the Ubisoft box ticking about them, They're elevated by a smart approach to exploration that introduces a brand new gimmick with every zone.
Yep.
From buggies to planes to chocobos that can climb walls and glide across chasms.
And again, that's something that is a fair criticism of Rebirth, is that it feels very checklisty. You have your map, it tells you where everything is, you get all the world intel on what anything is. It does become a little annoying at times, but there are sections, again, where you can just kind of enter an area, not open your map, and just come across stuff naturally. But I know people really want that organic exploration. We've talked about it ad nauseum. But the devs have already said Part 3 will have way more player freedom, not just with combat, but with world exploration. And I truly think Part 3 will be the big open world game we've all been waiting for. We're going to get the High Wind, the Gold Chocobo. I think we'll lose Chadley. I think our map will be a map, but it won't be marked like crazy. I think we're still going to have to find stuff on our own. So there are fair criticisms for Rebirth for sure when it comes to the exploration. I don't really play a lot of Ubisoft games. I attempted to play the first Assassin's Creed when it came out. I got 30 minutes into it and just stopped. And then I never went back. And I don't think I've played an Ubisoft game since. So for me, I didn't really find this super fatiguing because I had never really experienced that Ubisoft formula before. There's a spider in front of my microphone.
It's a smart reinvention of the original game's freely explored but ultimately empty overworld. But it's the continuation of Remake's story and emotional core that makes Rebirth so strong.
That's what carries it too. Even though it might have that Ubisoft formula that some people are tired of, the characters carry it. I didn't mind doing side quests that would normally suck or be boring because you have these wonderful characters backed by incredible performances that keep you entertained and sucked into the conversation. Even if you're just escorting a freaking dog, they still keep it interesting. On top of that, the incredible music that accompanies you on these side quests, the amazing combat, which they somehow found a way to make even better from Remake with the synergy stuff, and the fact that the story is about friendships and bonds, and it's so noticeable in the gameplay too because of the synergy stuff. So it's not like, let's just make these characters closer for the sake of story and development. It's like, let's take the aspects of friendships and find a way to incorporate it into gameplay and let these guys work together and do some really sick stuff. I love it.
These modern interpretations of the core trio of Cloud, Tifa, and Aerith are among Square's strongest ever characters.
Oh yeah.
And their journey here, which feels more authentic to the original than Remake's more expansive efforts, is unforgettable. Oh, and that overhauled combat system? It's even better here. Perhaps the best Final Fantasy has ever had.
Oh. I know there's people that don't like it. Again, I get it. There's the turn-based diehards that so desperately want just a turn-based Final Fantasy. I get it. I feel you. But this combat system, man, is so special. It manages to combine the old FF7 with the newer ideas they have of the Remake trilogy. It incorporates the best of all of this stuff, in my opinion. It's so addictive. I don't get tired of it. I'm still playing through Rebirth again to experience the combat and the story and the world. It's truly a super special game. I feel it should have won Game of the Year in 2024. No disrespect to Astrobot. I thought Astrobot was a lovely game, super fun, made me smile. But in terms of like my list of, top games of 2024, Rebirth was number 1. Silent Hill 2 was number 2. Astrobot was number 3. I feel in my heart of hearts, that Rebirth was the game of the year. When I look for everything that I'm checking off for like game of the year contenders, Rebirth checked all of those boxes. And I feel, and I don't mean to discredit Astrobot, because again, it is great, but I feel like maybe developers may have chosen it because they wanted to send a message to the industry, which I understand. That's a really big moment. You gotta let these companies know, hey, you can make these smaller budget games that are super fun, not too crazy, and they can be phenomenal and people love them. But, I truly feel Rebirth was the game of the year, personally. Again, no offense to Astrobot, because it is a lovely platformer. But this, to me, was the game of the year in 2024. Always the bridesmaid. It's always going to get nominated. Never the bride. It's not going to win.
I reclaim our world.
You do it. RE2?
Resident Evil 2 Remake took what the original did so well.
It's so good, dude.
Its labyrinthian level design, its disgusting enemies, its omnipresent sense of dread, and molded it into a horror game designed for modern audiences.
Resident Evil 2 Remake is my Final Fantasy VII Remake. The way I felt about FF7 Remake, the hype leading up to it, the build-up, the anticipation is what I felt for Resident Evil 2. I remember everything about the day that this game came out. I'd gone to like the grocery store to run errands with my mom. We had come home and we had gotten hit with a blizzard. So like I would go outside with my dog and we couldn't see like 2 feet in front of us. So it was the perfect time to get cozy in my pajamas with a little, mug of hot chocolate. My dog's right there with me. And just experience this game. And this game, much like RE Remake, takes all of the incredible stuff I remember from OG RE2, heightens it, takes liberties here and there, and just, it's so good. I've speed run this game, no joke, probably over 30 times, which for some people might not be a lot. For me, that is. But I know this game like the back of my hand. I love it. I love all of the changes they made. It's such a good remake, man. Like, I can't argue with RE2 Remake being number 1. The top 3 in general, I think, is really good. RE2, Rebirth, and Remake are some really, really great picks.
The Raccoon City police station is cleverly reworked and expanded upon. Enemies are faster, deadlier, and more unpredictable, and gorgeous lighting casts shadows over nasties waiting to grab you unawares. And, of course, the static camera angles and tank controls are traded in for third-person over-the-shoulder shooting, which truly transports the PS1 classic into the modern era. Perhaps Resident Evil 2's biggest achievement, though, is the way Capcom has played with the original's most iconic encounters.
Mr. X.
When you think you've got a terrifying moment figured out, Capcom twists it ever so slightly, removing any certainty as you slowly make your way through its carefully curated collection of memories. This is a remake designed to both terrify you in today's horror landscape and scratch that nostalgic itch, and miraculously achieves both right until its breathless end. And even though multiple other Resident Evil remakes have arrived since, this remains the ultimate gold standard for video game remakes.
Go on ahead! I'll meet you at the station!
And
again, RE2 Remake, Rebirth, 7 Remake, RE Remake. They all are like in the middle of that remake definition. They're faithful to a fault, but then they take liberties where they need to, but it all combines together and it just works perfectly to create an experience that feels familiar, but also brand new. Keeps you on your toes, keeps you guessing, but it hits you with those nostalgia feels of, I remember this from when I was a kid. So I really want to play RE2 Remake now. It's such a good game. One slight I do have on Resident Evil 2 Remake is that it didn't have a varied scenario B. The original RE2 had 2 scenarios for Claire and Leon, and they were pretty different from one another. With this game, it was pretty clear that they had only intended to have 1 scenario for each character, but they got a little bit of backlash, I think, in development, so they tried their best to create a scenario B, which is kind of different, but it's not super different. So that could be a slide on it. But honestly, IGN, I gotta give you credit. I think this is actually a pretty good list. I didn't really disagree much with it. Again, I feel like you could have put Remake in number 1 and RE2 Remake in number 3. I could have put Rebirth at number 1. But I'm very curious, what do you guys think? What do you think? What would you say are your top 5 remakes of all time, whether it's Final Fantasy or Resident Evil? Maybe it wasn't even mentioned on the list. I would really love to know what your top 5 remakes are. Let me know in the comments down below. This was interesting. This was really a fun watch, much better than I was expecting. But with that being said, I am Curious Corduroy. I will see you guys in the next video. Please remember to always be excellent to one another.